The WWF fans deserve a substitute in this match, and I'm going to name him right now. As a matter of fact, I think you know the guy, and I think you know him pretty damn well. Bang, bang! It's another Tales from the Attitude Era. Rob here with, of course, Tommy Blacha, the head writer of WWE during
bang,
this
bang.
era, which we are reviewing.
This era.
This error, as one sign says. I'm very excited about this episode. We're reviewing Smackdown, January 14th, year 2000.
It's ridiculous. I remember this one well. Chicago, a place I lived for many years, on at the Rosemont Horizon. Actually went out after the show, some of the boys, to all night, as those towns, Rosemont and Cicero, they have bars that stay open 24 hours, and got pretty wrecked.
Oh, the night before. So you were coming into work hungover?
No,
or the night after?
The night after.
Post-Raw.
Frankly, I don't remember.
I feel like Rosemont Horizon always gets mentioned by many wrestlers. I know Steve Austin in particular says it's his favorite venue because the acoustics of the building make it so that you really hear the crowd reactions in the ring. How did you feel about it?
It's a weird little, just kind of, it's a big arena, but it's just out by the airport, and it's in Rosemont. Like, those cities are so weird too. Rosemont, Cicero, they basically are kind of formed by gangsters and they have, like, literally 24-hour bars and strange things like that, and strange compromised police and whatever. It's just that regular building, but it's very loud. Yeah.
And the crowd was hot. This was a hot crowd and an iconic show, a legendary segment on this show, I feel.
The crowd was so hot. In fact, you could lay out, and we'll get into it later, a lot of things at this show. They could have just gone, you know what I mean? But just the crowd was so hot. The opening talking segment was practically 25 minutes, before there was any action.
But it was so good. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, again, reiterating, when everything's over like that, it's easy to write the stuff. There's not like, all these dovetailed angles or whatever. It's like, fuck, the crowd's hot. Just, just do it. And Stephanie goes out and makes that face, and boo. And
yeah. The crowd is already chanting the moment the music drops,
yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. It's electric.
So we kick things off with a recap of Raw, which is important because it plays in right into the opening segment, where we see the recap of Raw is Triple H beats up Mankind to a bloody pulp. Kicking things off, Triple H and Stephanie come out, immediately greeted with asshole chants, and which it's like, that's how you know it's a fun time.
Thunderous boos, and again, like, hundreds of signs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the hottest moment, I feel. This is like the peak of the heat.
Yeah. People are excited to like, because you go off, sometimes you go out, and I'd always like try to go up to the cheap seats for a second and whatever, look around, and just people are excited in the last row to like, I'm going to bring my sign. And like, oh, no one's going to see. Just with like one Sharpie line, like, I'm 5,000 feet away. Like, just, fucking everyone's just excited, like, beyond. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm excited. I'm excited for what's about to happen.
Did you make a sign today?
Yes. Well, there was a great sign in the crowd. McMahon Helmsley error.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
She says she doesn't understand all the drama. Boo.
Yeah.
If anybody has a problem with what's going on, in regards to the threat of a union formation, she says they could just come to her. Typical union busting boss, being like, no, you don't have to collectively. Just come to me individually.
Yeah.
And I'll deal with your problems.
Yeah. Open door policy. Boo. And I also love, and it's fun because we'd always like tell her, like, yeah, just lean into that. Like, my husband, 888. Oh, boo. Just like, the way she says it, she's like, just getting so good. Those facials, just incredible.
She makes it clear there's only one McMahon running things, and that's me. And as you mentioned, she says, and I just happen to be married to the WWF champion.
Yeah.
the game, Triple H. Boo.
Yeah, and those things are just like so stepped out. You know, when she does those promos, whenever there's so much heat, it's funny. It's like, yeah, take your time. Me, every syllable. Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. Oh, and my husband. You know, just like step it out. And boo, boo. It's like, you know, writing the stuff becomes like, hey, you know what? Slow it down. Cut it in half. Just, you know, draw it out because the crowd's so hot. It's easy.
Yeah. And only in wrestling do you really get that. I feel like in all other forms of entertainment, it's like, let's go, move it along.
Yeah, yeah.
In wrestling, it's like, no, slow it down.
Well, I'm sure there's moments probably with like, you know, and I know personally too, like with stand-ups, you get such a hot crowd and you're just like, holy shit, it's the same jokes. I did less and just kind of like, you know, milked things. So there is like similarities where just like, wow, that crowd was so hot. And then I'm sure you get it with like stand-ups and then, you know, they go on the road and do same jokes somewhere else. Like, fuck, I did the same show and just like, ooh, you know, I had to like go through more material and just like, oh, it was grueling. So yeah, the crowd is everything. Sure. And even on like at Conan or whatever, there's things like sometimes like, wow, crowd is so hot. You just deviate or you didn't get to things. And it's just like, oh, wow, that's just like, you know, or even segments that are to be produced with like interviews and like never even got to the third question because rift and the crowd was hot. So there are similarities. But
Triple H says he needs to apologize after Monday, not to any of the fans, boo, or the 50 ingrates who surrounded the ring threatening to walk, boo. They don't understand the sacrifices that Triple H makes for them. No apologies to you, but Triple H does apologize to DX, which I like. I really like this. He said he was wrong to try to fix all the mistakes with tough love, and then DX showed him tough love back. You made me realize the error of my ways. I'm going to right the wrongs and show you just how sorry I am. I really like this wrinkle in the story because Triple H needs DX to help him. He needs people to be his backup, and he recognizes that he can't really fuck with them because they're not going to take his bullshit. They know his bullshit. Who knows your bullshit better than your friends?
Right.
So he has to make good with them, get on the same page so they can get back to their mission
and get them back on top so they can be taken down at the upcoming pay-per-view. It's always a cycle.
Right. Yeah. You got to get their heat back after looking like doofuses.
Yeah. Get their heat back.
Tonight, the Outlaws.
Yeah, that's right, Rob. That's right, brother. Got to get their heat back.
That works for you, brother. Outlaws. I like this. The Outlaws face Bradshaw in a handicap match, a no DQ handicap match. And if Farooq interferes, they lose their title shot.
Yeah.
And he says, actually, the Outlaws are doing double duty because then later in the night, they'll be facing Farooq, also in a handicap DQ, no DQ match, and Bradshaw banned from ringside.
And the crowd was so hot and loud, it took Triple H about 10 minutes to get through what you just said.
Yes.
And then I think he even got like a little stunned by the crowd. And then in this very ring, and then for just like, but people was like, and it's the opening segment, hey, boo, whatever, everything's so hot. But when you break it down, you're like, Jesus, that took a long time to say what?
It is funny too, because I feel like on Monday, The Rock complained about too many handicap matches. And here we are with Triple H booking not one, but two handicap matches. But I do feel it makes sense for the story here. Also, he says he apologizes to X-Pac, and as a reward, X-Pac can team with Triple H to take down Big Show and The Rock. And so that's the main event of the show, hot main event. Then he moves his sights to Mick Foley. This is where it gets really good. He says, if you thought you had my back against the wall, you were wrong. Monday, I beat you 1-2-3 and left you laying in a puddle of your own blood.
Yeah.
Great saying.
Yep.
And he demands that Mick Foley show testicular fortitude and come out now. Mankind's music hits and we get to see Mankind. Mankind comes out.
There you go. That's the perfect one there.
Mankind.
Yeah.
Mankind comes out. And Cole says that's definitely not Mankind. Lawler says, look at the straggly hair. Like, that definitely looks like him.
Yeah. Terrible shirt.
Yeah, the terrible shirt. Mankind gets on his knees and apologizes and cowers in front of Triple H. And Triple H loves it. He's accepting this, only to be interrupted by the real Mankind, who still has blood on his shirt from Monday. I love the idea that it's been 4 days and Mankind has been traveling the country without a shower or going to the laundromat.
And that's not a work. That's a shoot, brother.
Mankind immediately greeted with huge Foley chants. Chicago is Foley country. Foley asks, how much more do you want from me? First, you take away my job. Then you bring this idiot out here and take away my dignity. On Monday, in what should have been the greatest moment of my life, being reinstated on Monday Night Raw, you ruined my shirt. You ruined my face. As I went in the shower and let the cold water. This is, by the way, one of the best Foley promos ever. Yeah. Like, he's just on it.
Let blood and the drool go down.
Yeah, let the cold water hit my head and see the blood swirl down the drain. I started thinking a little bit.
Accentuated with a great Lawler. Ew. I love when I think of Jerry Lawler and all his like wonderful promos in Memphis and his pontification and his absolute seriousness, even though when he would wear a crown back then. Now he's just like a human like soundbite drop. Oh, you know what I mean? He just like just the high pitch, and he just like, you know, it just cuts through everything. What are you talking about? You know, just like he's so happy to be like, yeah, this is great. I just, you know, plug these things in and he cracks me up.
Let the blood swirl down the drain. I started thinking about a little bit about what Mankind was. Mankind is an entertaining son of a gun, but Mankind is not ready to face you in a street fight at Madison Square Garden. There's a shot of Triple H. And he's agreeing. He's like, yeah, because you're the game. You're the best in the business right now. And you hear Triple H mouth, damn right.
Yeah.
You said it best. Mankind is nothing but a beat up, pathetic fool. Love the setup here.
Yeah. And I always love the fun old school thing of wrestling, which is like when someone starts like, you know, pandering to you instead of going like, which you would be like, wait, what are they getting at? You go like, yeah, finally they're coming around and they understand that. You know, so silly.
Yes, I love it. Yes, I do love that so much. The WWF fans deserve a substitute in this match, and I'm going to name him right now. As a matter of fact, I think you know the guy, and I think you know him pretty damn well. His name is Cactus Jack, and his first official act as part of WWF is to kick your teeth all over the city of Chicago.
Pretty good, but even then, let's slow this down for a second, because
yes,
man, without these hot crowds, you got to say over and over, this segment could have just went. Because really, what are you delivering? You're not delivering a mystery guy. You know, it makes really like little sense that Mankind, who's insane and just hardcore thing, you know, it's really a lateral move, you could argue. But the crowd is so hot. And when he comes down that ramp, all he has to do is like, and this you almost kind of worry. You always think like, what could go wrong? It's like, ooh, this could be the drizzling shits. You know, it's like, you know, I'm going to have a new mystery guy, but it's just me without this shirt and a T-shirt on. Boo. You know, that could happen, but the crowd's so hot. Even when he unbuttons his shirt and he starts to like reveal the wanted dead or alive before he says who it is. And again, he's stalling it as he's stepping down the ramp. The crowd sees that and they fucking pop huge. And you're like, oh my God, he's just showing a little bit of his T-shirt. And then it's one of my favorite segments of all time because it makes no sense. Like Triple H is like, I'm not afraid of Mankind. I'm not afraid of anyone. He's insane. He does this, but like, oh no, Cactus Jack.
When he says it's Cactus Jack, like first, like Triple H is like, yeah. But when he reveals the shirt, it says Cactus Jack. Triple H has a gaping mouth, like
it's fucking
that sells it so much. Yeah,
it's so great, and it just is so hilarious because you're like, well, to some outsider watching this first, well, it's the same guy. Yeah, but you don't get it. This, well, isn't Mankind arguably more insane from the depths of hell with it? Yeah, sure, but none of that matters. It's just the moment, just as Jerry Garcia would say, the situation's in charge. It just killed me. It floored me. And it's like, not Cactus Jack. Like, oh no, I've bit off more than I could chew. And then the shot of like, Midian Cactus Jack, when he comes up, he's like, I'm out of here. It's even though there's two of them, and it just works. And he's just limping down there. It just, the crowd is just, and you didn't give him anything more, And
that's right. When you put it that way, that's a great point. I didn't consider it that way because I remember being so into this. And let me provide even more context to your point. Mankind in the last 6 months has kind of been bumbling around, kind of been like more of a silly sidekick to The Rock than the hardcore threatening guy. So
absolutely.
In this, he's kind of saying, I'm shedding that aspect of my persona and going back. Like Cactus Jack is just the hardcore element of the three faces of Foley. So he's like, no more Mr. Nice Guy, basically. Yeah. And his book was a #1 bestseller in the last few months. Millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people are reading this book, reading about all of these crazy matches Cactus Jack had in Japan that you couldn't really have video access to. You saw maybe like a compilation of it, but you just hear about all this crazy stuff. So I feel like the lore of Cactus Jack in this moment is huge. And
in this very moment.
Yes. and I feel WWE has done such an incredible job throughout Mankind's entire run of telling his lore. But even in the last few weeks, like in the New Year's episode, you had every segment being like, oh, the best of Mick Foley. And a lot of that had Cactus Jack in it to show like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Makes a good point, Cole.
So you've been training the audience to understand why a guy just taking his shirt off to reveal another shirt is in fact a big deal.
And like I said before, he's the greatest. No one else can be like like I said, the best one to write for. Like, I'm an idiot, I can lose, I'm goofy, I'm funny, I can get heat in a second, I can challenge for the top spot. Just the ultimate utility player. That's almost like an insult to say the utility player, but there's just no one like him in that sense. You know what I mean? Brings, like, and then like, oh, but thoughtful promos, and hey, he's one of the smartest wrestlers. You know what I mean? But he's a slob and he wears the same shirt. Just like all the boxes. It's kind of, he's incredible. So
and you really have to hand it to Triple H too. He played his part to perfection. With like that. The mouth gape, like if he didn't do that, I don't think it would have been as effective of a segment if he didn't show that he's in fact frightened right now of what he just did.
Yeah, it was amazing because really, to break it down, it's like, you're going to be facing me, but without this shirt on, with this T-shirt on. Amazing.
So Michael Cole yells, Cactus Jack is back. The crowd is already chanting Cactus Jack, Cactus Jack. Like you said, they're in. They're in. He absolutely destroys Triple H with punches in the corner. He does his hip bump. And then who tries to attack Cactus Jack but Mankind? And of course, Foley no-sells the chair shot to the back and destroys Mankind, throws him on the announce table, grabs a chair, and does a flying elbow drop with the chair from the apron onto the announce table. Bang, bang! He gets on the mic again, and he tells Triple H, who's now at the stage at this point, run off, you look into my eyes and believe me when I tell you, I'm going to tear you apart in New York City, and I will take what you hold dearest, your WWF championship belt. I will take it, and it will be mine, all mine. Bang, bang! This is good. 2 promos back to back that are just phenomenal.
They're so hot. Everything's so good. The way and I have to put like Triple H over, just all these guys. The way his long hair, he whips it, and it's just like the style of Mick Foley, with just like looks like a garbage truck running in those punches, and it works so well because you're like, hey, I'm a well-conditioned athlete wrestler, but I'm facing this like runaway truck who just punches, and you don't want to go toe to toe with it. It all works, like his just the way he delivers his punches, and then Triple H is so good at that, like drunken sailor, I'm out on my feet stuff, and just all the timing was great. The camera work, when with the chair shot thing with I'll call them Midian kind. And they're like, oh, I'm hurt, but I'm up,
Yeah.
It just all worked so good. The timing was great. The crowd was just, it paid off. And again, it's like, wow, that was a 25-minute opening segment.
That must feel really great when you write something and you're like, oh, this could be good. And then you see how it's delivered better than I imagine you even hoped.
Yeah, certainly. But like sometimes you're always like looking for, okay, what could go wrong? And then you're kind of like, ooh, a lot can go wrong. But then they're all such pros, and when the crowd, like, again, over and over, like the crowd is so hot, and you get away with like this longer segment in the beginning because it's building, and you just know like, oh, everyone's so dialed in, it's gonna work, and even like I said, the wavy part of like Triple H being overwhelmed by the crowd and like, oh, I'm making these matches. People are like, okay, fine, and then the third match we're gonna have fine. Everyone's like hot, so you kind of like. Everything was so hot and working so good. And like I always try to say, like the agents, all the elements are just working so good. So sometimes I feel uncomfortable saying like, oh, we wrote it and it came off. You got to realize like you're just assembling stuff for them to, you know what I mean? I guess like a football coach, like here's a play, but when they go and they, the offensive line moves people or something, it's like, just like it was written up. It's like, well, yeah, the player, you want to give the credit to the machine, so to speak.
Yeah, and also I feel like you guys are really revving up your promo machine for the Rumble. The Rumble is now under 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
You had New Year's, which kind of you were like, oh, well, let's not promote too much. People are going to be away from the show, so they're going to forget. So now it's like all hands on deck. It feels like every segment, in a way, is to push the Rumble, it feels.
Absolutely, and that's a big point. And especially like back then, because it still was that the pay-per-views had a huge buy rate, so that was a big money maker. Like now it's weird, like you said, that they call them premium live events or whatever. It's like, but everything's on stream. You don't have this sense of like, they had a better sense then of like, this is a big money maker coming up. Like the way wrestling has evolved on TV, the old school was like, the shows were really just commercials to get people into the live gate, and that's where the money was, So you just see squash matches, and it's like, folks, if you want to see these, you got to go down. And then it starts in our era here, where it was kind of like weird, like the Monday Night Raws and the Smackdowns are delivering almost as much as pay-per-views. The timing's different, but still, you had that formula of like TV ratings are huge, money's coming in. The live gate kind of takes the production cost, but there's still like every pay-per-view you want to promote heavily because it's like, what's the buy rate? You know what I mean? And there's something, box office. There's something just fun and satisfying about that, of going to that, where I think a lot of TV like that is now like, what are numbers? Like, don't worry about the numbers are low. Are they? But there's so much money involved, and there's an overall deal, and you know what I mean? It's not like the old days, like they're in the shitter and, their numbers down. And it was just fun to be like, work towards pay-per-views,
Yeah, it was a logical endpoint of the story.
Yes. Yeah, Pasbani wrapped it up. Right, Cole.
The Outlaws come out for the first handicap match. Road Dogg tries something new on the mic, since they have to do 2 entrances. Bradshaw comes out, and I love this. He comes out with powder, immediately throws it in the eyes of Road Dogg to get a bit of an advantage. I thought this is almost the golden era of handicap matches here, because you've done about like 10 of them in the span of the last 2 or 3 months, and they all are a little different, and you always come up with a clever way to give the person in the handicap a way to have a moment of shine before the odds overcome them.
Well, what's fun about that is being writer, booker, whatever is like, there's the, all agents and they take care of all that. No one ever wrote, Bradshaw throws powder in his eyes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I see.
It's like
they came up with all of that. Right.
Absolutely. They come up with so much, and a lot of times you just assemble it and like, see what they do. Well, they'll be fine.
And to your right, this is why wrestling is a collaboration, because you really need, like, your job is to structure the whole show, right? And like their job is to fill in the details and like the strokes.
Any of the cross-referencing is just through suggestions or whatever, or the production meeting or what have you. But I would always like to be a fly on the wall of like, what are we going to do? Whoever, Pat Patterson, someone, how about this? Throw the powder, something like, well, when did that first happen? I don't know, 1948 or fuck, who knows?
Yeah. So they double team Bradshaw. Bradshaw holds his own. He looks really good. He looks really good without making the Outlaws look weak, which I think is a difficult thing to do in a handicap match. But they give him the shine. Eventually, they overcome him. Bradshaw catches Billy Gunn in a power slam position and is about to end it. And Road Dogg has a chair, smacks Bradshaw so hard in the head with it. Bradshaw falls backwards and gets pinned because Billy Gunn is immediately in the pin position because of the power slam. And so they sneak in a win and run off.
Cowards.
Backstage, Coachman is with The Rock. Huge chance for The Rock. As always, Rock is the number one most over person here. Rock asks, "Who are you?" Jonathan. Coachman introduces himself, says, "My name is Jonathan." Rock welcomes Jonathan to WWF and to Smackdown. And Jonathan goes, "Actually, they call me Coach." Coach? As in the coach of a little girl's soccer team? Ask your question. Yes, how The Rock feels about teaming with Big Show. Doesn't matter if it's the Big Show or Big Bird. The Rock just wants to get his hands on Triple H. The Rock has one more question for you. How'd you come up with the name Coach? It doesn't matter how you came up with the name Coach.
And again, just another ridiculous sitcom-esque moment where Coach is like, well, actually, it's a funny thing. you just know what's coming. Yeah.
Now we have Too Cool versus the Hollies and Al Snow. Just 3 months ago, Hardcore Holly was feuding with Al Snow at the beginning of this Al Snow character arc because of the action figures in the Walmart dump or whatever.
What?
And now they're teaming.
What's your point?
they take on Too Cool. Oh, and by the way, Brad Brozell recently came up in the news. He's in the Trump cabinet now as the U.S. Agency for Global Media ambassador or whatever.
Oh, really?
Or like he runs the agency, I guess. So they run Voice of America. The U.S. Agency for Global Media. So they run Voice of America and federally owned international broadcasters.
I'm no less confused.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
He just runs the media division of the federal government now. So it's in good hands with Elbred Bozo.
Yeah. What are they? Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, the worm is super over now. It's over. The crowd is going with it. They still haven't figured out the WORM, but the crowd is with like every loop. They go, yeah. Like they're chanting along. It's very fun to watch this progression.
And again, who really comes up with that and writes all that is the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Really, because you never. Even these, why these matches are thrown together. It's like, well, you got to get fucking, Too Cool and Rikishi in there, and they got to have that. Really, it's just an excuse to get that moment, and the lights come down because everyone's going so berserk week after week. And then when you think of it, it just, like they say, it trumps the logic of it. There's always a logic. There's always a try to, believability, all this, but when things are so over, it just trumps it. Because when you think of it, like sometimes people have to sell with their shoulders to the mat for upwards of 2 minutes before that move happens. But it's like everyone's so bonkers. It's like no one complains because it's like, well, fuck, just listen. It's just thunderously over. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's really the whole point of the match. Rikishi wins with the sit-down pile driver on Crash Holly. And after the match, once again, Al Snow attacks both Hollies for letting him down. Says he can't depend on anyone.
Yeah, and loaded with fun little weird spots. And then it's always, as goofy as it is and whatever, but it's always amazing to see, holy fuck, Rikishi's 400 pounds throwing kicks, running. It's like,
his stamina,
It's so unbelievable. Like we said before, anyone who's 400 pounds and can run, period, is a problem, let alone his ability. It's just
he does that like that sell of a clothesline where he twists around. Like that's crazy for his size.
It's crazy. You know what I mean? He's just like a nightmare.
Backstage, Triple H congratulates the Outlaws on winning and wonders, where's X-Pac? This is a theme throughout the show. Like, is X-Pac still mad at Triple H? Earlier on commentary, the announcers pondered if X-Pac really is being rewarded by having to face The Rock and Big Show. Like, what kind of reward is that?
Correct.
And to continue to get Cactus Jack over, since he isn't that relevant to modern audiences, he hasn't been on WWF TV in over a year. You've been doing these interstitials all SmackDown to get across. This is a tough SOB. You show hardcore footage from Japan. You show some of the hardcore matches he's had in WWF. I really like this to continue to get Cactus Jack over as a huge threat to Triple H.
And, that's a big reason, too, for bringing him. Like, look at all this good footage and how to,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No one's more bang for their buck in their salary than Mick Foley, put it that way. Dear Lord.
Yeah. Like you said, the ultimate utility player.
Yeah.
We have Gangrel and with Luna against Test, who's slowly getting his heat back, climbing out of his herb.
He's been sprayed with herbicide.
Yes.
To get rid of the herbness.
This is good. This was all basically a setup to get Test a bit more over, it seemed. He dominated the match.
And a little bit behind the scenes was that it was starting to develop was like, hey, it was a little bit of like, you have to realize too, there's like, and I was thinking about this because there's so much other stuff you work on sometimes. I think somewhere around this time there was like, we were introducing someone who's kind of going to be like a evil aerobics instructor woman wrestler who came out and did something in the dark match before, and it didn't work with the era. It just, my point being, sometimes it's like, hey, work on this thing. Oh, how does this, let's try a segment before. And it sucks as people are in development and it's kind of like, your gimmick isn't really jiving with this and you're pushed away. It's almost like sports or something like, oh, let's try a third string linebacker. Oh, they, sprained their ankle. Yeah, they're off the, practice roster. It's just like that vicious sometimes. Plus you just got other stuff going on. So, but behind the scenes a little bit was, I think, Gangrel and Luna being a real life couple, let's, try to put some weird stuff about them fighting or whatever. And so also it's good to, I think, always have someone who could absorb losses or something. Like I said, when someone has internal conflict, like this fucking guy could be great, but she fucked him over and wow, what is their home life like? And, and they're such an intriguing real life couple. So, and I was promoting that too when what do you think of that? Like, yeah, we would do like all kinds of, crazy stuff like that. So that was beginning there. But unfortunately, it took a left turn quickly after through some incidents with Luna, apparently. And then it was just like one day, like she's off. And so there you go. But that was happening a little bit here. So.
Yeah, but this was fun. Tessa dominates. He got thrown to the outside and Luna jumps on his back and attacks him. The announcers talk about how he's having more women problems. He goes for a pump handle slam, almost has the victory, and Luna pulls the ref out and gives him a brutal lariat.
Yes.
Luna is a tough gal. She runs in the ring and she attacks Test. And Test has had enough. This is months and months of rage with women that he's taking out on this one woman. He fights back and gives her a pump handle slam. Then he gives Gangrel one too for good measure. And gives him a top rope elbow drop as the ref calls for DQ. But Test gets the moral victory.
Yep. And
by beating up a woman.
But boy, Luna, she was just one of my favorites too. She was such an interesting person to wear, how she grew up, everything, and rest in peace, Test and Luna, dear Lord.
Yeah. Then we have Bossman and Albert against the Hardys. The announcers talk about how Albert said that Bossman is his mentor, and Lawler quips, he's so indebted to Bossman, he said he's willing to give him the hair off his back.
Yeah. That's a lot of hair.
Albert had some unique offense here. I really liked it. He did like a torture rack into like a fireman's carry slam sort of. Great pairing.
Well, just another naturally athletic 310 pounder with a massive head running around. He's a nightmare too. Dear Lord.
And there's some miscommunication from Bossman and Albert, and leads to some arguing, giving the Hardys the opportunity to get a quick pinfall victory here. Bossman and Albert explode and fight each other and attack the ref. So it's a small union here. Big Show's interviewed backstage. He's excited to get his hands on Triple H. Says he's the only former champ who's never got a rematch. He's ready to get his revenge on X-Pac as well for walking around saying he's beat the Big Show. And as for The Rock said on Monday he would eliminate 29 other jabronis, and Big Show took that personally. He said he's going to eliminate The Rock and win the Rumble, and he doesn't like The Rock.
Always good.
Yeah, I like that you're setting up basically the final two members in the Rumble are feuding with each other. They're the two favorites essentially to win, just by proxy of being the biggest stars in the Rumble.
Oh.
After the break,
you never know who's going to show up, Pasbani.
Earlier in the show, there was a segment where Chyna tells Jericho that she's sorry and that they should get along. And Jericho's like, to your point, like of the heel just buying the pandering, like, oh, I'm glad. Great.
Yeah.
And then she's shown running to Tori to tell her something.
But there is so much duplicitousness that you always know, like, oh, does he really trust? You know what I mean? It's so layered. And then especially this, frankly, this storyline or whatever you call it, it kind of has run its course and is a little convoluted and odd, but at the same time, just aesthetically, it's so fun to see like Jericho, the cat, and Chyna just off to the side talking by some forklift. Is just like, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know now if we've been desensitized to like just the aesthetics of how these people look a little bit, but in terms of like, a lot of it still was just like, oh, wow, look at them. They're just like, they're so just visually over. It's just like, just get them out there.
We have Angle and Steve Blackman against Edge and Christian.
Christian?
Christian.
Is that a Jew for Jesus? Christian?
It's a Hare Krishna who.
Oh, right.
Who's into the Jews? Yes. No, it's Edge and Christian against Kurt Angle and Steve Blackman. Blackman has the advantage in the match, and all of a sudden, Val Venus's music hits. He says, "Hello, Blackman. You weren't planning on using weapons like this on my future brother-in-law, were you?" So you're pushing this brother-in-law story more. It started on Raw with Edge and Val Venus. And the distraction allows Christian to give Blackman a missile dropkick, and Edge catches Blackman in a German suplex, and the combo leads to the victory with Kurt Angle livid once more.
Yeah, and he's still unpinned.
Yes, and I will say, I believe the Val Venus Steve Blackman feud has been bubbling on heat. So 3 storylines pushing forward here. Then we have a segment which, as I'm writing this, I'm like, man, this is a little weird, because Chyna is telling Tori how disgusting Chris Jericho is, because all he talks about is how much he wants to have sex with Tori, and he wants to see Tori in a flight attendant's outfit with no underwear on or something. And she goes on, and Tori is disgusted, and she runs off to tell Kane, and Chyna says, hey, wait, look, if Kane wants to hurt him, you don't want Kane to get in trouble. You should just ask for a match and make sure it's non-title. So I just want to say, Chyna is using Tori's trauma to take advantage of her for personal gain with Chris Jericho. It's a kind of a heel move. It's absolutely a heel move by Chyna here.
Yeah, we're in the age of tweeners, right?
Yeah.
They're both,
And it made me retroactively think like, Mankind did the same thing on Raw, and he was kind of an asshole for that too, now that I'm thinking about it.
It's a dirty world.
Yeah.
It's like Gene Hackman says in Mississippi Burning, well, maybe we ought to be down in the gutter to deal with these people. You got to get in the gutter. Right. I don't think I quoted that
nothing
very
Jericho
well.
wouldn't have done.
I think I said, like Gene Hackman said in Mississippi Burning. I can't remember what he said. Fuck.
Yeah, that's something. Look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
Another Cactus Jack flashback, the dumpster match with the Outlaws, where you got thrown off the stage.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like about that was the last shot was like, oh my God, he's with all those packing peanuts.
Yes.
Packing peanuts just, they take the viciousness out of everything. Oh, look at all this. They're so annoying and they're just, didn't work. But other than that.
Outlaws are back to take on Farooq. Farooq doesn't even let them do their intro. He runs out to get a mild advantage. Again, Farooq holds his own. His spine busters look just disgusting. And the only way they can win is they do a double pin. Both guys jump on top of Farooq, preventing him to lift his shoulders, and they run off immediately because Bradshaw comes down with the pipe. I thought these last two shows did a great job of setting up this match for the Rumble. You set up this match like 6 weeks ago or whatever, but you didn't really start pushing the feud until these last few weeks, and it's going great. I'm
personally always looking for like, how can someone be over and entertaining and outside of the quest for the title? Because I always feel like if you're not going for a title, you should be either involved in a feud or in some kind of gaga. But they were kind of different where they could be, you know what I mean? That was kind of like happening. And after this, they kind of were like, yeah, they're all about drinking beer and beating people up and doing, that kind of shit more. So that kind of like would stall things week to week, but no matter, didn't really matter whatsoever. So you can just put them in at any, just by nature of who they are, oh, they got heat and they're going for a title like that. Godfather's back with D'Lo and the ladies. Not calling them the hoes on UPN anymore. Yeah. Thanks to L. Brent Bozo. Yeah, really smooth things. Really injected a lot of morality into the show. Yeah, got him. Meanwhile, the ladies look just as, naked as ever. Their outfits aren't any way scaled back or anything. Well, they're scaled. They're scaled back, all right, Pasbani. They take on the Headbangers, doing their cross-dressing gimmick, and I love Michael Cole in his Walter Cronkite voice, being like, Headbangers love to express themselves. They live an alternate lifestyle. Yeah. And even that's so funny because they're, they kind of get a little lost in time because they had that, previous, when they came out, they were hot. They had championships and they were, it was more like a grunge era, late to the party sort of wrestling thing. And then I'm sure that's kind of like, oh, look, Kurt Cobain's wearing a dress. Put him in a dress. You know what I mean? It's a little confused. Well, yeah, now they went from grunge to Marilyn Manson now, I feel is what they're going after. Or just a classic wrestling late to the party misinterpretation of some kind of zeitgeist that happened years previously. So they're kind of stuck in a weird spot there. You know what I mean? As wrestling always does, when you even think, sometimes you forget just the gimmickry of wrestling, the borrowing, sometimes we forget, oh, Sting, the Road Warriors, they just were basically hey, there's a band called The Police. There's a super popular guy named Sting. I'll be Sting. Okay. Road Warriors saw a movie, The Road Warriors. Oh, we should be like that. What do we call ourselves? The Road Warriors, and then it just lives beyond. You kind of forget, right. Oh my God, those are just so just borrowed. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a great point. But so they're kind of stuck in that weird interdimensional gimmick. What are they now? And you know what I mean? So sometimes, and that's with wrestling, sometimes you're like, oh, it's better to hold on to your gimmick, but gimmicks evolve. And so they're a little bit stuck. And then especially, when Thrasher Mosh got injured, it kind of was a little tough thing there, but. And Godfather grabs the mic, and I'm surprised that Godfather is very anti-woke here. He goes, what's your deal? 1 week you're wearing women's clothes and makeup now? You're all there. You think that a pimp would be understanding of cross-dresser, he'd be around that culture. I guess not. Yeah. I'm not gonna hop on board your logic there.
Headbangers say the problem's not with us, it's with you.
Yeah.
You're just upset we look better than your trolls do.
Whoa.
Get your trolls out so we can get funky in here. They say, what?
Yeah.
Funky in here. I do like calling the ladies trolls. That upset Godfather. He's like, oh, it's on now.
Yeah.
Don't you dare insult my ladies. And Godfather setting up for a ride. It's not Ho Train time. It's train time. Can't say Ho Train.
Yeah.
D'Lo gets the frog splash for the win. The team of D'Lo and Godfather further get their push. And then we're backstage with Coach interviewing Rock and Big Show. Big Show grabs the mic before The Rock can even say anything and says he'll say it to your face. I don't like you. Keep your mouth shut. Stay in the apron. Raise your eyebrow and stay out of my way. I'm winning this match. And then The Rock does his spiel, and we're on. I'm loving the setup for this main event.
Yes. Good work.
We have Kane versus Jericho. Jericho's on the mic, calls Tori a liar. He says he saw what happened on the monitor, and it's not true. He says there's nothing remotely attractive about Tori to me. No, wait. She's not my type. I like prettier girls. It's not that she's not that ugly. I just like girls with a little more intelligence.
Yeah.
Not that she's stupid. And Kate is like boiling now.
Yeah.
This is so good. This was a great way to make me forget about what Chyna did was kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Because here Jericho plays into it essentially. And
just like you just want to see that match too. And
yeah, you want to see it and you want to see Jericho get beat up now, basically. So you forget all about it. Chyna's backstage giggling with the cat, like, oh, we did it. And Kane wins via tombstone. He dominates most of the match and gets a big win here. He beats the IC champion or one half. So theoretically, would be a number one contender, but we don't see that.
And it's the whole angle is a big convoluted mess. So it's like we'll just lean into it being a big convoluted mess.
Yeah,
why not? It's co-champions. It's this. So yeah, just more. And then just like everyone looks so good too. It's like wow.
Yeah.
Just a fun just that silliness of Chyna and her little and the cat. It's just like it's cartoony, it's like ridiculous, and just that nice little shot and watching on the monitor. Tee-hee-hee. We're giggling at what we set up. So works
backstage,
for me.
we finally see Triple H and X-Pac together. Triple H once again apologizes, as does Stephanie. X-Pac blows off Stephanie's apologies. That means nothing to me, but I accept your apology, Triple H, and let's do this tonight. They come out first. Triple H tries to create tension by saying there's no way The Rock will come out first, and Big Show comes out, and then The Rock comes out second. Huge reaction.
And there was a little bit of smart Marxism what was happening then, because as we talked before, how many smart marks are around, and there's still the dirt sheets, but it's not social media where, everything's real time, you know everything. So, and that was always a thing, even the term jabroni that The Rock would use. So kind of as you talk about it, and this was philosophically leak some things in like that. You know what I mean? And it was kind of good to half educate and half thrill the smart marks. But even some of that language, which wouldn't have been used 5 years previously, you know what I mean? Wouldn't, and even Triple H saying calling out that almost always in everything boxing, whatever, the champ comes out last. But in wrestling, be no, the person who's most over comes out last. You know what I mean? They mix that up. So that's a wrestling thing. So he was even making it, no, you got to come out last for the big pop. So he's, referencing something that's, a little behind the scenes or kind of breaking kayfabe ever so slightly with these little things, just to so the people watching at home, the dumb brothers, what's happening, and the smart brothers see, actually he's saying pop and that, and they don't, so.
Are you doing an impression of me right there? What's going on?
Well, it's the shoe fits, Pasbani.
So Big Show starts the match, refuses to tag in The Rock, thinks he can win the whole thing by himself. Eventually The Rock leans over and forces a tag, tags himself in.
Not only forces a tag, but steals his thunder from his and then
yes, from his choke slam taunt. Throws X-Pac over the top rope to show he's ready for the Rumble. Goes for the people's elbow on Triple H. Ref is distracted with Big Show. As he goes for the elbow, X-Pac has a chair and hits The Rock in the back.
Perfectly.
Yeah, great. Yeah, the choreography was perfect on this.
Choreography? What are you talking about?
Really, X-Pac shines, and it shows like he's probably in all these house show main events with these guys and holding his own and being a main eventer himself.
Well, he's one of those guys. He's been wrestling more than he's been not wrestling in his whole life. He's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was that like 16-year-old skinny weirdo who was already a veteran, he was a veteran by 18. If you look at all his shit, never fucks up. He's incredible.
And so the Rock takes the heat the whole match. Finally manages to build a comeback, crawling over to that apron to get the hot tag, but Big Show's not having it. He drops off the apron, walks off. F you, The Rock. I don't care about this match. And as the ref is distracted, wondering where Big Show went, Triple H sneaks in a low blow on The Rock, leading to the pedigree. 1, 2, 3. The match is over. DX wins. The Rock loses nothing by losing because you're telling the story of you're building up this. In one night, I feel you've already built up this Rock Big Show feud so well.
Sure. And everyone has an understanding. It's amazing, those guys, even though, like, I don't know how much they often like each other, whatever, they're at this level, but everyone gets like, oh, yeah, this is what you do. And it just, him losing just makes it better for, the pay-per-view for him.
Yeah, this is something that was completely different in the top of the card with WWF than in WCW. Nobody in WCW wanted to lose, and all the endings didn't make any sense and in no way made you want to look forward to the future matches, whereas this, it's like, oh, now I want to see Rock and Triple H. I want to see Rock and Big Show. I want to see Big Show and Triple H. It sets up all these things.
Although I will say this, the funny thing about WCW is you say no one wants to lose him. That might be right here or there. Although what I loved is like Hall and Nash, they eat more pinfalls than anyone. They didn't care, but then they were just over on the mic. So it seemed like there was a weird thing of like, yeah, I'll lose just all the time. But then, they're the biggest thing.
But they get their heat back after they lose, though. They'll lose and then beat up the other guy.
It's almost transcends that. I think they just didn't even give a shit because they were just like, we're so over on the mic. What the fuck? We just come out, it was fascinating to watch the train wreck, but that was like a big, in a way, if there's a weird thing with booking in politics, sometimes when you're the big star, you kind of take the power away by not caring about the pinfall, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was unique to that situation. I'm sure it's happened in a lot of situations. Like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, because we'll I'm gonna have you. You're gonna do the honors. Okay. They're like, well, fuck. How do I get this guy? And then, but we got to rely on you to come out because you're just so over with them. Because really, when you ask most people who are fans of WCW, Did Hall and Nash, when did they have the titles here and there? No one fucking knows or cares or just was like, oh,
well, with Nash, he wouldn't lose to Goldberg. Anyone beat Goldberg for the street, but that's it's not quite.
Yeah. Well, also that was interesting time just because it was like so weird. Like wrestling could always do that. Like, let's just put someone and make them undefeated and unstoppable. And while it worked, at a certain point was like, ooh, I remember Goldberg's first probably big match where against DDP where it's like, how is Goldberg going to sell? You know what I mean? That was like the whole thing. Like, who, you know what I mean? It's almost like they've created a monster. And that was a great match. I think they gave
that's my favorite Goldberg match easily.
Yeah. And DDP was like incredible in that. And it was kind of like, yeah, that was good. So we went off the rails.
Yeah.
Oh my
this
God.
Is the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Big Boys Play era.
Yeah.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. That's our show. Please send us your feedback. tftattitudeera@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Follow us on social media. And, we're on the road to Royal Rumble. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see this pay-per-view.
One of my favorites of all time. One of my favorites of all time. And
stick around, folks.
Celebrity laden New York. street fight, etc.
We'll be on our way.